Welcome to the Wellness on Tap podcast with your host, Dr. Debs Eastwood.
So I met you through Stuart.
Yes.
Yeah. Who brought you, well, met up with you here this morning. It was a nice bonus, a nice surprise to see him. And initially, when he told me what you did, I thought, how are we going to make that fit? But this lady's interesting. I want to talk to her. I want to know more. But yeah, there's plenty of meat on those particular bones, isn't there, to chew over and to talk about?
Yes. I'm still discovering things to think about that whole thing, you know, that's kind of led me to where I'm going.
Yeah, to make the changes that you're making. Oh, it's so exciting. So can we go right back to the sort of beginning of all of what you're doing now, what you're moving from and into, and, you know, how did you get to what you're currently doing and exiting from?
I've been in the funeral industry now for, 12, 13 years now, something like that. And it was never a career path. You know, it's not something that you pick at careers day. You go, I want to be an undertaker and that. They'd have you sectioned, you know. But I think there is still very much a taboo around death. You know, people are scared of it. If you talk about it, you might tempt fate. My dad was working as a funeral celebrant, which is what I'm doing now. So and he'd not always done that. He discovered it later in life. And I kind of knew bits and pieces of what he was doing. But all those years ago when I first started in this industry, I guess I was on a bit of a journey to try and help people. I'd had my own loss a few years prior to that. And I remember specifically how that woman in that funeral director's made me feel. And I was only young. You know, I was in my early 20s when that happened. And my daughter passed away. She was stillbirth.
God, I'm sorry.
It's all right. Well, it's not all right, but it's what you say, isn't it?
It is. It's what we say. But
and I remember sitting with this woman and thinking that it was going to be this cold, horrible procedure almost of, you know, it's just something that is a box ticking exercise. And I have never felt so seen and cared for. I still speak to that woman to this day. A friendship was built off the back of something so shit. And a few years passed by and I carried on doing the jobs that I was doing, kind of in project management and, you know, corporate world. And I remember saying to my dad, who was at that time working as a celebrant, like, I really want to do something different. And he said, why don't you consider this industry? At that point, I'd had two losses. I'd lost my daughter and I'd lost my granddad. So that was kind of my only understanding of death. You know, I'd never been to any other funerals. I didn't understand the processes. And I ended up working for this particular funeral director as an arranger, kind of progressing through to funeral director. And that was, for me, I wanted everybody that walked through that door at that branch to feel the way that woman made me feel when I lost my daughter.
She did a good job, didn't she?
She did a bloody good job, that woman.
Yeah.
She really did. There's a lot that goes on in this industry that people don't see, and it's not just a formal process that we have to adhere to. You know, the level of compassion and empathy and understanding that you're able to put into this, but I firmly believe not everybody's made for this work, but the ones that are, you will never find purer souls in your life that can hold somebody's hand through the darkest hour of their life and not make it better, but don't make it worse.
Absolutely, yeah. Make it something you can get through.
Yeah, definitely. And then I did that for a few years. And then I went doing some mortuary work. I've always been fascinated with science, medicine, how the body works. I want to know the ins and outs of all of this. And that was a completely different kind of giving. You're giving families answers. You're giving them closure. You're able to say to them, I'm so sorry, darling, but it's this is what we've found, and there was something incredibly wonderful about that you were able to, you can't take it back. I can't fix this, like yourself, you medics are wonderful. I can't fix this, but I can tell you what's gone on.
Yeah, for sure.
And then from there, I needed something that worked around little humans.
It had come to that time of your life.
It had come to that time of my life. Yes, mortuary work didn't quite work with little humans, and I found that separation of pulling on the drive, having just spent many hours, perhaps in an autopsy or doing whatever was necessary, and then opening the door and little people shouting mummy, and being able to compartmentalise that. It didn't work with the hours and stuff. So I remember saying to my husband, I want something that helps people, that feeds my soul, and is still within this line of work. And so Elle the Celebrant was born, and here I am.
Excellent.
Yeah, and we've been writing eulogies and doing services ever since.
That's quite a story, and to be fair, probably a reasonably unusual career path as well.
Yeah.
There are a select number of individuals that can do that type of thing. I mean, I spent, as a scientist, my first degree was anatomy and cell biology. So I spent chunks of the 3 years of that degree in a human dissection anatomy lab.
Yeah.
Getting my hands in and being privileged enough to work with somebody's body who had left it for medical science.
Yeah.
What a privilege.
Absolute.
And just, I can totally see that. That's not for everybody.
No.
And then when I became a lecturer at uni, I was teaching it both to scientists and to medical students.
Wow.
And that was one of the things that gave me the kick up the backside to actually go into medicine, was seeing somebody that I had taught as a medical student. And I was then what's called a demonstrator, because you're demonstrating the anatomy to people.
Yeah.
Coming in to be a demonstrator himself. So I was like senior demonstrator at this point, do you know what I mean? But my head saw it as, he's progressed, he's moved forward. I'm stuck, I'm still here.
Yeah.
And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I said, no, I'm going to do medicine.
Yeah.
But that meant I spent years. I ended up teaching engineers who were doing like biomedical science stuff.
Yeah.
And biological science and tissue engineering, some anatomy and physiology and histology as well. But so I have an appreciation.
Yeah.
And the people that it was their permanent job running this space.
It's, like you say, it's not for everybody, and it's very heavy work. Mentally, physically, emotionally. But what an honour.
Yeah.
That you're in a space and in a career that you are being trusted with somebody's loved one, not only to provide the respect, the dignity and the care, but also to then take all of that information and all of your skill set and then provide comfort by the way of answers to the family.
Yeah.
Absolute privilege.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
I mean, what I did was a bit different. We weren't, involved with the end of life. We were at a stage where people had donated and you're
learning from it.
We were learning from that. And then they went back to the care of somebody like yourself, or at a more general ceremony that we were part of as well. We would attend. I remember there's always, bizarre humour, isn't there, in there?
Yes, I think it's a coping mechanism for a lot.
Yes, and we were at the ceremony one day, and there were various roles that you could fulfil there, as well as just attending. And the main lecturer had said to me, I want you to carry the symbolic candle that remains lit. You can see it coming, can't you? That remains lit and until, we get to the end, and then we snuff it out at the end of the ceremony. I said, okay, fine. And for some reason, he came round the back of this screen where I was waiting and decided to make sure the candle would light. Okay. So he did that. And unsurprisingly, it lit. And so we blew it out. And then literally less than a minute later, it had to be lit again. The problem was some of the wax had melted and there was this pool of wax and the candle was now about 2 or 3 millimetres above this liquid pool of wax. And I didn't think there was nowhere for me to pour it off to, do you know what I mean? And so I'm walking down this thing thinking at any second this flame is going to sputter out and it's not my fault. It didn't. Fortunately, I don't know. You know, the universe was on my side that day, but afterwards I can see the funny side of that.
Yeah, definitely.
But, you know, and it was good to see. Not all of the families turned up, but a lot of them did.
Yeah.
You know, and it was good for them to see us and, you know, they were part of the whole process.
Yeah. I think that comes down to such an individual choice as well, doesn't it? That some families are very much, tell me everything, I need to know, it's closure, and they'll want to be part of every step of the process. And then there's others that they don't want to.
No.
Don't tell me. I want to remember them how they were. I don't, you know, and that's such a personal choice.
Yeah.
But I think it's just about being able to comfort everybody no matter which path they decide to take throughout this process. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, just recently I was at a Muslim ceremony and they have a viewing window in the sealed coffin. And I looked at this beautiful young woman and was like, but that's not how she was. Obviously, no makeup.
Yeah.
But in the English culture, we do, don't we?
Yeah, we do. We do.
And fully shrouded. The thing we had an issue with was, well, not an issue, that made it look not like her, was the fact that there was no makeup on her face.
Yeah.
She wore glasses. I could understand those not being there. That would have been a little strange. But the hijab that they'd chosen was pale in colour and plain. And I just thought, for her as a person, it would have been just a real nice touch to have it something a bit more.
Yeah, to really showcase her personality.
Yeah.
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 And we do that in our culture quite a lot, don't we?
We do. It's very different, isn't it?
Yeah, massively so.
So have you seen just traditional English? Have you worked with just traditional English?
Predominantly I do. You know, each kind of faith and culture, they have their own kind of ways of, you know, sort of doing their services, particularly in the work that I'm doing now. But saying that, you know, even our funerals that we have, no two are the same. And they, especially in the last 2 years, they have gone wild. Like,
are you able to share a couple of stories?
Oh my God. I mean, you will always have your very traditional funeral, which they've always been. And I will say this to families when I sit down with them, you know, would you like a traditional service, which is very much a chronological order from somebody's life beginning to end? So I know that as I'm writing their eulogy, we're following a timeline. Some people now, and I'm finding this more and more, they're going, yeah, sod all that. We don't want to talk about the childhood or the working history. Let's talk about this. It was only last year. It went a bit nuts on social media, actually. I uploaded some pictures and videos with the family's permission. This particular lady, she was obsessed with bingo, like obsessed. So I said to the family at the meeting, do you want to play bingo? And she went, can we? I said, do whatever you want. And she went, seriously? So for an hour and a half, I wrote my script based around a game of bingo, and another celebrant, bless his heart, he gave his time and he was holding up the numbers. We were launching crap gifts at people. They were up dancing and singing. Everything this lady did in her life, they did at her service. And
wow.
It was insane. If anybody was walking past that crematorium and they saw me throwing prizes at people and people dancing to George Ezra, you'd think, what is going on in there? And I know it's not for everybody. Some people see that as disrespectful. But for that family, it was their mum. It was perfect.
Yeah.
You know, I've done rave funerals. I've gone in full LED masks that are flashing. We've had smoke machines, and anything is doable now. I've gone down the driveway dressed as Batman. You know, you tell me what you want, I'll do it. And I've not said no to anything yet, so that tells you what kind of person I am. You know, I swear my husband thinks I must be on drugs or something. So I leave the house sometimes. He's like, what the hell is she doing? I'm just going to work.
Yep. And that, to me, like you say, some people might not see that as respectful, the more traditionalist people. But to me, personally, that is completely showing respect to that individual. Yeah. And it truly is celebrating their life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not exactly what you would class as a quiet and reserved character. And if anybody, you know, heaven forbid something happened to me and my husband said to a celebrant, oh, yeah, she was really quiet and shy, you know, we'd want a very formal affair, I'd haunt him. Right, we're not doing that. I want it to be loud and ridiculous, just like I am. So I think the way funerals are definitely going now, and with the introduction of, you know, there's more celebrant-led funerals than ever before. You know, there are still many, many church services, understandably so, that's people's faith. But there are so many celebrant-led ones now that you can essentially have whatever you want.
Yeah.
And why not? You know, why should you be able to be celebrated in life and live your way fully and go, oh, well, that's just, you know, that's our so-and-so, they're just a bit like that. But then lie at their service. And there's a bit of an unspoken thing in the funeral world. We call it funeral truth, which is where everybody knows exactly what that person was like, but don't say that. So you fluff and you frill and you say, oh, yeah, they were lovely, weren't they? And they were ever so quiet and they were this and that. And everybody's sitting there going, am I in the wrong bloody service? You know, because you've got funeral truth. Because sometimes people are scared of offending the neighbour or, you know, somebody else. And I just think it's so sad. It's your last chance to really tell people, that was my person and I bloody loved them for it. And why not?
Yep. I think the closest I got to that was a chappie at work. And he was completely into Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so we just had the Star Wars theme played half a dozen times throughout and various references.
Yeah.
So a gentle form of what you're talking about in comparison to...
I do feel, though, Debs, like some of the funeral directors that I work with, and I know some of them will be listening to this when it comes out, that I swear they must sit down with families sometimes and think, this is a really odd one. Who do we know that's odd? Elle's odd. We'll ring Elle. It's always me. Like, I've got some celebrant friends and that, and I'll say, oh, I'm doing this, and this kind of service. And they look at me like, are you all right? Like, what, you guys haven't got those? Like, I just seem to get all the bizarre, weird and wonderful ones, but I love it because I get to give everybody exactly what they want.
Yeah.
If you want a sweary funeral, I will swear. If you want me to sing and do a dance, it's not going to be pretty, but I'll do it. You know,
wouldn't be if I did either. But yeah,
why not?
But during all of that,
oh God,
you've had some health demons.
Life's been lifing, you know. It's and it's not until, you know, actually I look back that this has been years of what my dad always called writing checks.
Okay.
So whenever, you know, something would happen in my life and it wasn't, you know, dealt with in the way that society would dictate, like you go to therapy or, you know, you show some kind of deeply emotional response to it, my dad would always say, you're writing checks, my darling, and you got to cash them one day. You know, as in other words, open the bloody box.
Right.
Like, feel it, stop it. And I always thought, oh my God, one day I'm going to have this major breakdown, you know, because I'm just writing these checks. But actually, it was my mindset. You know, I mean, you go all the way back to the beginning when I lost my daughter. Horrendous.
Yeah.
You know, but that's enough to put people into such a spiral and pit of depression.
Mm-hmm.
But I used something so horrific to turn it into, okay, I've got this, what can I do with it?
Wow.
And I went to help people. I used all that crap and all that pain And I was saying this to Stuart earlier, and it broke my heart a little bit, because as much as I used that trauma to go and help other people, taking care of people healed a part of me that needed looking after.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that realisation of, I am always going to, I think, look at the wreckage and not just sit in it.
Yeah.
I'll try and build something. And as you say, you know, like health problems, when I had my little boy in 2017, and then his sister came along in 2019, and things went a bit pear-shaped.
Okay.
When I had my daughter, you know, I was putting it mildly. And life changed for us rapidly. You know, I'd gone from being this outgoing, adventurous mum that got on the floor to play Lego and was running around the park and doing all this kind of stuff, to all of a sudden, when I had my daughter, I was in a wheelchair. And life was very, very different. My husband became my carer overnight. You know, we're moving house with a 2-year-old and a 3-month-old baby 4 days before Christmas, because I needed an adapted home close to my parents.
Wow, that was seriously an unexpected.
Massively, massively. And life just literally in the blink of an eye just changed.
Yeah.
And I remember people saying to my husband, because for the first 6 months of her life was particularly traumatic. I spent more time in the hospital than I did at home with my kids. I remember them saying to my husband, she will probably never drive again. She'll never walk again. She'll not go back to work again, you know, because at that point I was doing the mortuary stuff, and it was almost like game over, you know. And my husband's a very, he's a dry soul, very quiet. He watches, he observes people a lot, and he'll take all the information and he'll kind of go, okay. And that was it. And he had no response to it. But I made a choice consciously. And I'd heard all this stuff. You know, you're not going to do this, you're not going to do this. And I remember it starting with my big toe. If I could move my big toe, pain-free, if I could get that going, well, then I can do more. Then I can do my foot and my ankle and this. And I was relentless. And I was almost vicious with it.
Tough on yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. But also with, I'm so pig-headed that if somebody tells me you can't do that, I very much am, watch this.
Yeah.
You know, don't back me in a corner and tell me I can't do something, because I'm going to do it just out of pure spite now.
Yeah.
And I remember them saying all this stuff to him. And when my daughter was 18 months old, it took 18 months for me to walk independently. And I walked to my husband from our kitchen door to the dining room. And for the first time in 18 months, he showed a reaction to everything that happened and cried, because I was upright.
Yeah.
And I went back to see the neurologist and the pain people and everything else that was kind of going on, and they were looking at me going, okay, how? I don't know how, but quite simply, I refuse to say fucking down.
Good for you. It sounds like that grit that you had when you lost your daughter.
Yeah. Yeah, massively.
Certainly hadn't gone away.
No.
That absolute, and I mean this in a very positive way, bloody-mindedness.
Yeah. It's that my granddad always used to say, she's got fire and grit in her veins, that one. And I see that very much in my own daughter, and I hope she never loses it, because if she ever faces adversity or anything, I just want her to keep getting back up. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing, just get up.
Yeah.
We'll figure out what the hell we're going to do. When you're up, just get up.
Yeah.
And I've kind of realised it's not until I've stepped back, and I'll talk to friends and they'll go, why do you say it so flippantly? Like, that was bloody awful. You know, like, why does it not seem to... I'm not taken away from the fact that it was awful. I lived it. I was there.
Absolutely, yeah.
I know how shit it was. But I'm also a big believer in, what is me laying down and crying and self-pitying and having such a rigid, fixed mindset of victim mentality? How is that going to serve me or my family? It's not.
Precisely.
So let's maybe step away from that and go, yeah, okay, you might be the doctors, you might be telling me this, but I'll decide. you know? And I hope I never lose that.
I think you've demonstrated it often enough just from observing you and knowing you for the time that I have that ain't going nowhere, girl.
No, it's... I felt inhuman at some times, almost like, why don't things affect me as much as they should? And I think we're so influenced by what we see on the telly and on social media and other people's responses to things that I started to think that my responses weren't normal.
Right.
That maybe I should be in a heap, medicated to the hills, suffering desperately with my mental health, and I should be, am I not normal? Like, should I be broken by this? And don't get me wrong, they've took pieces from me, pieces that I'll never, ever get back.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I'll ever fill the void of certain things because, I mean, when everything went wrong when I had my daughter, I am by no means healed. I live in constant pain. I have damage to some of my organs. It's not great.
Okay. Not what you were.
I'm not where I was. I'm not where they said I'd stay. So if I have to live at a 7 out of 10 every day and look at other ways to treat my pain, to keep me upright and to keep me going, I'll do that. Because it's better than watching the heartbreak on my children's face that mummy can't play Lego on the floor.
Yeah.
Nah, fuck that. We're not doing that.
You do know that's inspirational, don't you?
If I heard somebody else say it, yeah, but I think because it's...
Take it.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
You're an incredible human.
It's been bloody tough, Debs. It's been bloody hard.
Yeah.
But I don't ever feel like it's enough. I'll never learn enough. I'll never know enough. I'll never have helped enough. And I think that's what's driving me constantly forward now of like, okay, I've done that, so now what?
Yeah.
Now what?
Yeah. So outside of medicine, was there anything in particular that helped you apart from, the practicalities of your husband helping you and your personal determination?
Yeah, I mean, I was a good girl initially, and I took all the medication as prescribed and all of that, and I would never encourage anybody to not do that. But I know how I feel when I'm heavily medicated. You become a zombie, and I didn't want that. So I started looking at more holistic, kind of treatments, things that I could do to reduce my pain. And the neuropathy that I've got and the burning that I've got in some of my limbs all the time, there's actually some dressings that were developed for burn victims. And they're just like massive sheets of gauze. And they've got a particular kind of, I don't know if it's magnesium or it's got something in it that when you put it to your skin, it cools. Ooh. And it stops the nerves burning and firing. So I started using those and I thought, okay, that's brought it down to a 6. What else can I do? And then I started looking at different reflexology, certain points to maybe press on the soles of your feet that help decompress that particular nerve. So we started doing that. Okay, I've come down to a 5. And there was just all these things that I tried the meditation thing, but the ADHD stopped that. I was off. I was thinking about my weekly shop. But I try really hard now to, whether it is like the patches or the reflexology or even the magnesium creams, they've been fantastic. Like topical, they've been brilliant. Just doing anything I can from a more of a wellness and holistic point of view rather than just pop some pregabalin and walk around like you're a zombie for 12 hours,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've been trying loads of different things and I'm so open-minded about that stuff that if somebody came to me and said, I've seen this like grounding mats, like so good for inflammation and, anything that would help me reduce that pain just a bit. Yeah. If it's something I can incorporate into my lifestyle, then I'm all ears. Yeah.
It's all about marginal gains, isn't it? Like you say, a little bit here, a little bit there.
Definitely.
Put them together.
And I think that's the problem, that sometimes people think, yeah, but the medication takes it down to a 3 on its own, so I want something holistic that will bring it to a 3 on its own. Sometimes it doesn't work that way. It's you have to take your little wins where you can and build them.
Yeah. You've got to work with your body. Your body
Yeah.
will heal itself if you give it what it needs.
Yes. It almost felt like a bit of an out-of-body experience when all this happened. When I remember sitting on the edge of the bed once. So, you know, when you get out of the shower and you sit there in a towel and you procrastinate for an hour and suddenly you're dry.
Yeah.
I remember sitting there on the edge of the bed and remembering thinking, my leg doesn't feel like it's attached to my body anymore. It doesn't feel like my leg. And I remember saying that to my neurologist, and he said that is a completely normal thing with the injury that you've kind of got. It won't feel like yours. And I'd got like this kind of disassociation with it. And he said, you know, there are really good therapies and stuff, like there's sensitivity work you can do, you know, where they do the mirror and all that. It works really well for people that have had amputation, you know, like phantom limb pain and stuff. But I've had to relearn my body. And when I was sitting on the edge of the bed, I was kind of looking at it and thinking, okay, you were born with this. You know how this body works, but it's changed a bit now. We've gone in a different direction. So what we need to do now is figure out how this bit works again. And it's been a complete learning curve. Don't get me wrong, it pisses me off.
I'm sure. Yeah.
It's infuriating. But these are the cards. And so often I hear people say, I can't do that because it's the cards I was dealt. Play a different bloody hand.
Yeah.
You've got new cards.
Yeah.
You know, but again, it's those limiting beliefs, isn't it? That
Powerful.
we pin so much on, yeah, but this happened, so this means this. No, who said that was the rule? By all accounts, really, with some of the things that I've kind of gone through in life, you know, even prior to my daughter, you know, that relationship itself was messy. If you were to count them all up, by society's standard, I shouldn't be here. Certainly shouldn't be a functioning adult. So who said they were the rules?
I love that. Give society a kick up the ass.
I think people just need to be open to the possibility that actually anything is possible if you just switch your head into gear. Stop believing everything you've been told and stop believing everything you think.
Yeah.
Because one of the most powerful questions that somebody said to me the other day is, if you think about anything you want in life and you always come back with a, yeah, but I can't, or it's this, what needs to happen that you can? Break it down.
Yeah.
What needs to actually shift in your life so you can go and achieve anything? And that's the mentality I've kind of had all through my life of, okay, what can we do with that?
I think one of the ways that I see it, I think it was Henry Ford that came out with the statement initially, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
You're right. Yeah.
And if you imagine your brain, like every single input, every single day, there's billions of different inputs through all our senses every single day. And obviously our brain can only retain a certain amount of it. We wouldn't want it to retain everything. Can you imagine if it could tell you every single number plate on every car?
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, you just wouldn't want that stuff in your head, would you?
No.
So it will filter and get rid of stuff. And the key is making sure you've got enough stuff right in the front of your brain that you're going to action that's positive and taking you in the direction you want to go.
Yeah.
And you can change that.
Yeah.
But most people don't think they can.
No. I said something to Stuart actually the other week, and he said to me, go and write that down. It's bloody genius. And it was something like, so many people hold the key to their own happiness, but complain about the view from the cell window. And he said, it's true though. He says, we lock ourselves away into this box and we categorise ourselves and we put limits on things and say, no, I can't, or I shouldn't, or I don't know. And there's such generalised terms of, but what if? You know, and who is it that's telling you you can't? You know, or why do you believe that? Because if we actually got to the root cause of it and we changed that,
Precisely.
you know, sky's the limit.
Yeah, it's all to do with, I reckon, you know, the way we brought up the society around us, our caregivers,
Absolutely.
you know, whether they be the caregivers in the home, in school, in work, our friends, our peer groups, everything.
We're a product of our environment.
Yes.
You know, and there's that saying, isn't there? You hang around with 5 idiots, you become the 6th, you know, and if you've got all this external noise kind of coming at you that's not very conducive, you're never going to believe in yourself. You know, I've been in a very fortunate position that I've got the most fantastic mum and dad, that if I went home now and said, I want to be a bin man, they'd be like, you're going to be the best bin man this town's ever seen. You know, they don't care. Yeah. As long as I'm happy and I'm healthy, they don't care. But they fed that into me and they've always supported me. So that's massive. But whereas you look at somebody that may not have had that, how could they have belief in themselves if the very people that are there to take care of you and help you grow aren't believing in you?
Yeah.
I think that's why I want to help as many people as I can, to kind of pull them out of that and go, no, baby, you're fine. We can get you to where you want to be. I promise. And I'm a firm believer, you know, if you've got something to offer the world, whether it's a skill set or love or time or whatever it is, don't make your fence higher, make your table wider. Let people come and have a sit down. No.
That's marvellous. I love that. So where are you heading now then?
Oh my God. So obviously, we talked about how I got into the funeral industry and like caring for people in that way. And that was the kind of lesson in life, I guess, that forced me into that. But I've learned a lot about people. And one of the main things that I have found about people, you know, when I'm sitting with their families or even with themselves before they've passed away, all of them have said, wished I'd done that, or I regret that, or, oh no, he never did that. He wanted to, but he weren't smart enough, or, you know, oh, she was disabled, so she couldn't do that. And every single meeting, every single one. And I would sit there and say, oh, all right then, okay. But they all had regrets. They all had massive things that, yeah, they told me lovely stuff, things they'd achieved, you know, families they'd nurtured, adventures they'd been on, like these beautiful stories. But every single one had a mass regret. And then I started to step back and go, why? Why? Who told them that that was the way it had to play out? And it was too late.
Yeah.
It's too late because you don't meet somebody like me until it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
So then I started having these moments, and it was usually in the car. You spend a lot of time in the car when you're doing this work. You're driving to appointments or to services, and I particularly get in my own head a lot, and I'll start questioning things and analysing and wondering, if this isn't just one small part of it, this is bloody everywhere I go. What if I could get people to live better while they can? Mm-hmm. What if I could change the way they thought about themselves and about the world before anybody like me ever came into the picture? What if I rewrote their narrative? And so was born the quest to train further. So I am 75% of the way there with my NLP practitioner's qualification. Business coaching, life coaching, the whole shebang. And my aim in life is, once I kind of transition away from that and I'm qualified and I'm set up, through work experience, through things I've seen off of the back of funeral services and mortuary work and everything I've learned there, but also my own lived experience, the trauma and the shit and, you know, everything I've experienced as a person, if I can combine the two to teach people to live better, and it's as simple as this. Death has taught me a lot about living. And I now want to kind of throw that into the world and go, look, I have seen this from all angles. I will always have the sound of a mother's screams in my ear when she walks into a mortuary. I will always have the vision of a child sat front row of a parent whose addiction got the better of them. This shit will haunt me for the rest of my life. So if I can turn this into a positive and reach a wider audience of people and just say, telling you, if you change the way you thought about things, or if, if we could implement this, this and this, oh my God, the life you could have. Motivation is very fleeting. I don't want to be a motivational kind of consultant or, speaker or anything. Discipline is the highest form of self-respect. I want to teach people to be disciplined, to choose themselves, to choose the right way of thinking that's actually healthy.
Yeah.
That you can go on and achieve anything, but even if I do this, even if I transition, because I still want to do my public speaking, I just want to speak to a big audience now. I want to get on that stage and just be me. I want to be authentically me, the mental crackpot, swearing, ADHD-riddled fool that I am, and just say, do you know what? It's a bit shit sometimes, isn't it? But we can get you there. And if people say, yeah, but how do you know? I'll tell you how I know.
Yeah.
Because I've lived it and I've seen it, and it's scary and it's dark and it's horrible, but I will hold your hand through it, and I categorically mean that. And if I just change one person's life, all worth it.
I think you're going to do far more than that.
God, I hope so. I hope so.
When you can just feel something.
Yeah. It feels the right time, Debs. It feels that, I've poured so much into writing eulogies and meeting people, and what a bloody privilege that has been. You've trusted me to craft your loved one's story and then stand up there and speak and do them justice. It's an art form.
Yeah, isn't it?
And but now, those quiet moments, before those chapel doors is open, when you're in there and you're checking your music and it's just you and your folder and your thoughts and stuff, those moments have allowed me a lot of clarity to go, no, this shouldn't have ended like this. And maybe if they'd have had somebody like me, a down-to-earth, working-class lass, say to you, I've lived that, sweetheart, and I got out, and so can you. That's all I want. Spread it far and wide.
And I'm sure you will, because one of the major things that you've just been talking about there is getting up on a stage.
Yeah.
That is something that an awful lot of people can't even contemplate.
No.
Whereas for you, you've done a different type of, but years of public speaking.
Yeah. I think with the public speaking though, because obviously, your funerals are so varied, you might have 10 people there.
Yeah.
I've had 400 there. Your congregation sizes are different every single day. But because that audience that you're speaking to is so specific to that person that we've lost, I'm telling you things about your loved ones. Whereas if I could get on a stage and speak to hundreds of people and it resonates with all of them in a different way, there we go. And actually, I'm feeling it I don't feel privileged that I've kind of had the experiences in life that I had to a degree, because some of it I wouldn't have had. But it feels a bit like a hat. If somebody said to me, how do you escape domestic violence? Well, let's talk about that. Or, how do you get through this? Well, we've done that. And I'm not saying I know the answers to anything or everything by all means, but I like to think that I've seen enough of the darker sides of life, both in my personal life and at work, that I've got enough experience to be able to confidently and accurately help people reframe.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people may well have experienced one.
Yeah.
Or maybe two.
Yeah.
Of the things that you've had all three of in your life.
Yeah.
Serious debilitating illness, the loss of a tiny wee one. And domestic violence.
Yeah.
Those are three huge, huge things in people's lives.
Yeah.
That for whatever reason, well, we can see what the reason is. It's the reason you're going to be going forward to do that. Unfortunately, you had to endure and come out the other side.
Yeah.
So that you can help others to do just that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when people see that you were in a situation where you were experiencing one of them, and then along came another one, before you'd had time to move away from the first.
Yeah, it's it seems to have been like a kind of a bang, bang, bang kind of situation. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was big years between them. But just when you kind of starting to get your head around it and go, oh, okay, well, I can do this, and then something else, kind of comes. Yeah, it's been a lot. Mm. And I think it's been very humbling as well, like working in death. You do get a little bit of, people have said to me, well, how's it been for you when you've lost people? And obviously I lost people before I started working in this. And then I had a loss recently whilst working in this and continued to work through this. And even with all the experience I'd got, my God, did that humble me. And it makes you realise, actually, you don't know shit about how you're going to respond to it. Mm. So every day is a school day. You're always learning something. But I'm always also thinking all the time of, okay, how can I use that to put good into the world? And if I keep that mindset, fingers crossed, Debs, I'll be all right.
I mean, surely enough is enough, universe. Come on, give this girl a break.
Do you know what, though? As much as there's been crap, Debs, I'm so blessed. I genuinely am so blessed. I have got the most phenomenal husband, the most beautiful, enchanting children. I've got great parents. I've got a wonderful set of friends. I get to drive. I get to go to work. I'm blessed. Yeah. What could have been.
Absolutely.
Or what maybe should have been.
No. Stick with the could.
Yeah. No, I'm incredibly blessed,
And the fact that you see that is so important to your journey going forwards as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's something else others need to be able to appreciate. We're often just so not grateful.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
We take things for granted.
We do, all the time.
And that needs to go out the window, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think if people actually sat back sometimes and looked and realised actually what they've got, and I think that's what's so infuriating for others sometimes. If you've got somebody that's perfectly healthy and they're complaining about something and you think, you don't have any idea how blessed you are. Your body works completely, or they've got the most wonderful partner, but they just don't appreciate them. And you just think, come on, you just... I think more people need to really take a step outside the circle and look at what they've actually got, There's not a day doesn't go by, and I'm not very romantic, as I'm sure you can tell. I'm not exactly the kind of person that's writing love notes to my husband. But there's not a day goes by that I don't look at that man and just count my lucky stars, because he is everything. Genuinely everything. My day starts and ends with that man. And I certainly wouldn't be the person I am or have as much grit inside of me if it wasn't for him. And I say to him all the time, you've clapped so loud for me that I didn't even recognise who wasn't. And I don't deserve him. I really don't. He's wonderful.
Oh, yes, you do.
I don't know, Debs, he puts up with the bloody lot.
Maybe he does, but he sees in you what you don't see in yourself often.
Yeah. Yeah.
He helps you believe.
Yeah. I've actually put in one of the acknowledgements in my book that he has listened to every half-formed thought, every crazy idea, every whirlwind, and just gone, all right, darling. And there's never been a hint of, oh, here we go, nothing. Just always, whatever you need, you can do that.
Your soulmate.
Genuinely, yeah. Yeah.
So the book?
The book, yes. Hopefully it will be for sale as of the end of this week. It's not the big book. That one is still in construction. It is the poetry book.
Right, yes.
So it's every single personalised or bespoke poetry or reading that people have asked me to write for them when I've been doing eulogies. So yeah, it's all compiled into this beautiful little packaged book, and it's got really nice illustrations that match all the poems and stuff. So that's hopefully going to be for sale by the end of the week.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Looking forward to that.
And the bigger one's in progress.
The bigger one is in progress.
That can be how long is a piece of string, can't it?
Oh, God, that's the one that I'm having to really dig deep and get over my limiting beliefs and, set my goals and be accountable for all of that, because that's the one that I hope it will be in Waterstones. It will be in Waterstones, that one.
Nice.
Yeah, that's the big one.
Oh, I've got goosebumps. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
No.
So we're going to crack on and finish off these courses, get you qualified.
I know, yeah. And then a new chapter awaits. Literally, yeah.
What a pleasure.
It's been amazing. Thank you.
Oh, you are going to come back when you're practicing and the book is launching.
Give
and
you an update.
All the rest of it.
Yeah. No, it's been
People
wonderful.
are going to want to know.
Thank you.